Happy Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the DII Nation Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Cavadi, and joining me, as always, is the hardest working co-host in the business, Bethany Bowman. How's it going, partner?
It's going good, and really pleased to have a new exciting guest here today on the DII Nation. And it's not going so well for us if we're trying to make a name for ourselves in the predictions business, because last week we sat right here with Chuck Bittner and Brandon Meisner of D2 Football, and each one of us predicted West Florida would make a run at its second straight national title. But the Newberry Wolves had obviously a different agenda. Joining us today is the head coach for them of the Upset Kings, Coach Todd Knight. Welcome to the Nation, Coach.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Wayne, for having us on tonight.
Yeah, it's a great story. We had to make sure we talked to you and everything that went down. But before we get to the big game and even this season, let's go back to last year, right? So 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, you won 5 games. That was a model of consistency. But last year, in that weird spring season, you did it in just 6 games. Right. And you had that big one against the Pioneers. What were you able to take away from last year that prepared you for this big 2021?
Well, I think we probably played more ball games than anybody else in our league. And that really benefited us. I don't think a lot of teams really wanted to play. I think the presidents got together in our conference and kind of said, okay, we're going to have a spring season. The minimum's this, the maximum's that. And we tried to play as many as we possibly could. I just felt like the kids, they were so hungry to play. They were like a sponge. They wanted to soak it up, every bit of it. So we took advantage of it. I think we had a different approach to it. I think everybody else kind of looked at it as a glorified scrimmages or some type of spring football that kind of tied into their 15 days of practice. They treated it kind of like that. We looked at it like a true season, went at it with a different mentality. And, a lot of coaches, well, we just want to work on this. We just want to work on that. We went into it saying, look, we're going to win or we're not getting on the bus. So we treated it like a true season. And I think that really helped us, and it rolled over into this.
Yeah, it showed, that's for sure.
You flash forward now to 2021, and you had just lost to North Greenville to go 1-1, and number 5, Lenore Ryan, comes to town. Your team hangs on and wins, snapping a 3-game losing streak to the Bears and giving Newberry its first win over a ranked opponent since 2014. Was that the spark that made this team believe, and maybe when you knew that you had something really special going?
I think going back to the North Greenville game, I think our kids knew that we had something special. I think they went into that ball game maybe a little overconfident, and that really woke us up. And if you could take a positive away from that negative game, it is that for me, that it kind of snapped us back to reality, saying, okay, yeah, we won 5 games in the spring, and yeah, we beat Barton, and we walked into that game going, okay, we're going to take care of business here. And kids didn't come out of the locker room. That's on me. That's my fault. But I think, again, it woke us up. We knew how big the LR game was. In the spring, we lost to them in double overtime. And that one hurt. It stung. And the kids wanted to make up for it. And they played their guts out that day. And coming off of that, waking up from the North Greenville game, coming off the LR win, I think our kids thought after that we could have something really, really special.
Yeah, and that's definitely what you got. You got something really special going on. It's fun.
And we got it rolling now. We stumbled a little bit against Mars Hill. We lost in double overtime there. We missed a field goal in the first overtime to win it. But really, looking back at it, we didn't play very well early in the game. We got hot late in the ball game. And, looking back on it, we were beat up. Starting tailback was out, had a couple of COVID issues, but that's not an excuse. We still should have won that ball game, even with all that against us. But, kicking game sometimes is tough. I'm not a very good kicking coach. I don't mess with them, to be quite honest with you. I work better with linebackers than I do kickers. But we have struggled in the kicking game this year. And the second half of the season, our kickers really kind of came together a little bit. They've all been hurt. I've never been through a season where every kicker on the team has been in the training room. It's really weird. And to go into a couple of games and say, okay, we got one kid. He can barely run. Let's squib it. Let's sky kick it. And we'll only kick a field goal if we get to the 15-yard line. That's as far as he can kick. We've had that situation throughout the year. And just over a period of time, they've got healthy and come back around. And luckily, in the second half, the kicking game came alive.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about quarterbacks, because Bethany and myself are fans of exciting quarterbacks. We've had a few on the show, like TJ Davis from the UNK and Ivory Durham from Valdosta State. And obviously Dre Harris fits that bill. Talk about his evolution as a player that you've watched as the leader of this team, and what makes him so special.
Well, Dre's always been an athlete. He's a kid that can beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his feet. But the thing that's made him a complete player over the last 2 seasons, in my opinion, is his maturity level. He's just grown up. He's been in the system with us now for 3 years. He's very confident with it now. He could go out and pretty much call it himself. And to me, that's the difference. The kids had the tools, the talent the whole time. Learning the system, being very comfortable in the system, and just growing up, just being more mature in the locker room, out on the field as a leader. That's the biggest difference that I'm seeing in him this season.
Not only was West Florida the defending national champion, their quarterback, Austin Reed, is one of the best players in Division II. And it looked like that game could get away for a moment when the Argos rattled off those 27 straight points. Let's talk about the defensive adjustments that you made and how that secondary really worked to make Reed uncomfortable.
Well, you're right. He is one of the best players in the country. And after the game, I went over and told him that. The kid, it's ridiculous when you're watching film with this kid. The passing game from West Florida, it's very impressive. It's complicated. They do a great job there. And he has got a cannon, and he understands it completely. He knows where to put the football. I think what we came into the game with a mindset of disrupting him by collisioning the receivers, by saying, look, there's no uncontested route, period. Whether we're in a zone, whether we're in bump and run, man free, too high look, and the safety's playing man under, nobody gets off the line clean. And the first touchdown that he threw, it was the first uncontested route of the game. And that kind of drove home the point on the sidelines. Do not let this happen again. We've got 2 pretty good corners. Both of them are in their senior seasons. A lot of NFL scouts have been to look at them. One kid's been invited to the NFL PA game, Anthony Blue. And we got a lot of confidence in those kids. They've been with us a long time. They understand the scheme. They're very aggressive. And we banked on them. And we said, look, we're going to stick with the philosophy here of go after him, keep putting pressure on him. He's really not used to taking shots, getting hit at all. There's games where we looked at, and he took every snap in the entire ball game and had the cleanest uniform of everybody when it was over with. Nobody ever touched him. And that's a credit to his offensive line. And for him understanding the offense and getting rid of the football on time. We felt like if we disrupted the routes, made him hold it a little bit longer, that our kids would have a shot to get to him. And we put him on the ground a couple of times, and you could tell he wasn't used to it, and it got him frustrated. But him being the great player that he is, he came out of the locker room with the mindset that he was going to right the ship, and he did. We didn't play a perfect game, and in the second half, we turned the ball over. Dre, I think, played well for us, but he threw a pick. But he also hustled and made the tackle off the pick. And we put it on the ground and gave him a second turnover. And there's part of your 27 unanswered. And we faked the punt to keep the sticks moving. And then we blocked one that turned into a scoop and score off of it. And to me, that was the pivotal point in the game.
Yeah, that punt was huge. And I like what you said. It's funny because I was watching the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Giants game last night with the cast, and Coach Parcells came on and said the key to beating Brady is if you can't play the pressure, disrupt the routes because you ruin his timing. And that's exactly what you were just saying. And that's the way to.
It's one of those things, you got to live by the sword, die by the sword. Right. You can bang that route, but you got to get to him eventually.
Right. Yeah.
And his offensive line's really, really good. Really good. So I can't take anything away from him. I think, and I don't know if you want to slip into the game. I've kind of gone into it a little bit as we've gone along, but I feel like the week before we played them was big for us. Huge game, sellout crowd against the number one team in the region. So number one team in the region versus the defending national champions. It doesn't get much bigger than that, especially in the Gulf South, arguably the best Division II conference in the country, arguably. So coming off that monster game, 600 yards offense plus, 61 points on the board. And then here comes that little old country school from South Carolina that nobody knows where Newberry even, where we're from. That was the biggest question in Pensacola. Where are you guys from? I bet we told 1,000 people. We're from South Carolina. And we was kind of banking on that, to be quite honest with you, hoping that they would be sleepwalking a little bit. And we talked all week long, start fast. We got to jump out of the blocks. We got to get this going before we wake up the sleeping giant.
Yeah, and you did. You came out, you scored those quick 14 points. But, I want to go ask you a question that you just touched on really with the Gulf South, but you're in that part of, the region too, the super region too. And, you just Florida, and now you got to go play Bowie State, who is simply a remarkable team, great defense. Again, you're going to first tell us what it's like to be a coach and team in this super, and then tell us what you need to do to beat these Bulldogs.
Super Region 2, I know everybody in the country could probably say the same thing that I'm just about to say, but everybody in our league thinks that the national champion is going to come out of our region, and it has for a while, and I think that point's been proven. So it is extremely tough for anybody to make it out of Super Region 2, much less go on to the national championship game and win it. You've done something pretty remarkable if you can pull that off. And when you're at a school that's got roughly 1,100 students, and you're going up against West Florida that's got 12,500, and every advantage in the world at a Division II level, we don't have anything, not one thing that compares to what they have in any category that you could name. We probably have 2 or 3 kids on our team that Mike could play for them. It's that big of a mismatch. So our region is extremely tough. And I think it's kind of a great balance between the state schools and the small private schools, and the fight and the struggle back and forth between it. Our league, the South Atlantic Conference, hasn't done really well against a Gulf South or a Bowie because of that private school mentality versus the bigger state school. Money becomes an issue, numbers becomes an issue, and sooner or later the bench catches up with you, in my opinion. But every once in a while you'll see a team from our league that'll do well. A Lenore Ryan, a Wingate, a Carson Newman, a Newberry. From time to time you'll have that run. And I think it's tough in our league to be consistently year after year knocking off the Gulf South guys. And when you go up north and you look at a team like Bowie, and I think a lot of people out there may have the mentality like, well, Newberry just knocked off the defending national champions. Playing Bowie's not going to be that hard. Those guys haven't watched film. Bowie's an extremely good football team. And defensively, they may have the best defense in Super Region 2. Especially if you focus on just their defensive line. They're athletic, they're strong, they can flat run. They're strong enough, if you try to run it at them, they can take you on and stop you. But if you try to run away from them, they can catch you. So they've got a great balance of size, strength, and speed up front. And I've not seen anybody in our league or this region in film exchange this year that can compare to their defensive line. So it is going to be a challenge. I kind of look at them and us, and there are some comparisons, obviously, with their record. They're conference champs, we're conference champs. Their defense is nationally ranked. Ours is pretty good. I think we got a really good defense. I think our offensive line and their offensive line are very similar. I think their defensive line, again, is the best that I've seen. I think things like, and this could be come across like as a cliche, but ball security for us on offense is going to be big because Bowie is disruptive. They create a lot of turnovers. If we can control the sticks a little bit and hang on to the football, flip the field when we need to, and let our defense play and hopefully make some stops and prevent their defense from a lot of turnovers on our part. Looking at Lenore Ryan this past week versus Bowie, the 4 turnovers, that's the biggest stat in the game. I think LR had chances to win the game, but they couldn't overcome the 4 turnovers. And I'm just hoping that with us, a little bit better ball security, maybe learn something from the Lenore Ryan game plan defensively on how to slow down the fantastic tailback quarterback combination that they have. They can hand it off and the tailback can beat you, or the quarterback can pull it and he can beat you. And that is a dynamite combination that they have. If we can slow the run game down, it's almost the opposite game plan of a West Florida.
Right.
So every time West Florida hands the ball off, the way we looked at it, we said, be happy. Get him on the ground and be happy. Because they want to throw it and they're going to throw it just about every down. Well, Bowie's the opposite. Bowie wants to run it all over. And so this week, the mentality with us defensively is every time they throw it, be happy. Go back to the line up, be happy. Let's concentrate on slowing the tailback down and taking care of the quarterback at the back door.
Yeah. And it's like you said, that defense, man, they're opportunistic and they're almost like a second offense, the way they score touchdowns. It's
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the best that I've seen in a long time. And
yeah.
It's hard to compare anybody to West Florida. They were really the class of the league. And their kids, I told Coach before kickoff, I said, listen, you've got the best looking Division II football team I've ever seen. Bowie State defensively rivals them. And I think up front, they're probably more athletic. Not as big, not as strong as West Florida, but probably more athletic.
Yeah.
And that's saying something.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Coach, I've really enjoyed covering Division II athletics and just seeing how many coaches can flat out coach. It's not just Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney that can coach in football, such as yourself, you know, and tell me what makes being a Division II coach special for you. There, you know, obviously are some really cool parts about it and getting to be very connected and close with your players and team.
Yes, it's the family atmosphere for us. You know, we don't run the football program like a big time program does. I don't imagine. It's more like a family with us. Now we coach aggressively. You know, when you've got to go out there, and I tell the kids all the time, I want the best for you, but I got to get the best from you for that to happen. So we are demanding, and I think we do a good job X's and O's wise, but there's a little more family to it with us, you know, and I'm not ashamed to say things like this. You know, I love those kids, and I feel like they love the coaching staff just as much. And do I get on them? Are there days when I, you know, get upset? Absolutely. But we talk about those things. And listen, how many families out there fight? All of them. The brothers are always fighting with brothers, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, those brothers have each other's back and they love each other. And that's what we are. And I think Division II, you see more of that. And I hate to say it, but I can see some of the Division I influence kind of, you know, trickling down to us when it comes to things like the transfer portal, that kind of thing, which I'm just not a big fan of it, because you see it at the big time level, people just jumping ship and no loyalty, that kind of thing. And I'm starting to see that at our level. You didn't used to see that at our level, and I hope it doesn't continue to be an upward swing.
Yeah, that feels, and you're definitely right. We've seen it a lot more. That feels like a result of the COVID, the extra year, and hopefully kind of balances itself.
It'll balance out as we go along. Yeah, I sure hope so.
Yeah, no, I agree with you though.
But you know, coaching Division II football is special in a lot of ways that people don't realize, and they don't think about. Like you bring up Nick Saban and Dabo. You know, Dabo's not getting on a 9-hour bus ride to go anywhere. He's not getting on a 9-hour bus ride. But those are things that you have to do, and things that people don't think about. You know, where are we going to stop halfway and do a walkthrough? You got to call around, find a high school field, find a college that'll let you stop by. And, you know, do you have enough towels for the kids to take a shower? How many Chick-fil-A sandwiches are we going to eat on that trip? You know, Nick Saban doesn't worry about things like that. Division II football, it's still football. It's college football, and the kids fight and play just as hard as Alabama and Clemson. But at the end of the day, I don't think the kids at our level are, I'll use the word spoiled, as some of the Division I guys are. It's still about the love of the game for me and for these kids.
Absolutely.
More than it is for being on a commercial for Dr. Pepper.
Coach, are you a spicy or a regular Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich lover?
Oh, I'm just the regular old original guy. I'm not a hot sauce guy at all.
Okay. Well, that's a good question, Bethany, because that leads us to the hard part of the show, Coach. And you're about to get put on the D2 Nation hot seat. So we hope you're ready.
Let's hear it.
All right, Bethany, get them started.
All right. What is the best football movie of all time?
Oh, God. Brian's song. That goes way back. You don't even know what that is.
No, yeah, I was just reading a tweet from a coach today about that. So it's really funny you say that. And I'm maybe going to go watch it tonight. Now that you said that, I feel like it's time.
Get a box of tissues.
Oh.
Well, you want to know what's interesting? You know who else said that on our show is Coach Shinnick. Said that was his favorite movie. So
Coach Kinnick and I go back a little ways. We actually coached against each other years ago when he was at Pembroke. He came to Newberry. It was a big regional game at our place years ago.
Right. That's
So
awesome.
we've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah. So speaking of coaches, who's a coach or coaches possibly that you admire and kind of have modeled your philosophy around over the years?
Bethany brought up Saban. I think a lot of people out there, want to be and try to mimic what he does. It's hard to do that with what he has to work with. So it's hard to model it after him because you don't have the support staff or and all the things that go with it. But if you're going to pick one, you might as well pick the guy at the top, and he's been the guy at the top for a long time. So, it might not be X's and O's, but how he carries himself, how he handles the program, how he handles the team, that kind of thing that I take from him more than anything.
Sure.
If you weren't coaching football, what would you be doing?
Golly, that's a good question. My dad was a bricklayer, so I would probably be in the brick pile right now if I wasn't coaching football. So I'm glad I went to school all those years ago.
Yeah, it's paying off. It's definitely paying off. Do you have any superstitions pregame or something you do, for the entire season every year?
I used to be like that, but then I kind of got over it. I used to say, okay, I'm gonna wear the same outfit every time, the same watch, the same ink pen. I'm a big ink pen guy. So if there was one thing, I do have this one particular ink pen that I carry on game day, and that's about it.
Nice.
I kind of got away from all that, don't wash your socks kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the wife's not too hot on that.
Is there any musical artists that you like that really shows your age in front of your players?
Oh God, yeah, all the time. Allman Brothers. I love the Allman, and I'm a blues guy. There's not any kids that listen to the blues nowadays, but that's kind of my favorite genre. It's just the old. Yeah.
I like to hear that because I love the Allman Brothers myself, and Coach, I'm a little older, so when we have these questions with student athletes, they drop these musical artists, and Bethany's all excited about it, and I have no idea who they're
Exactly.
My dad loves the Allman Brothers, so I know the Allman Brothers.
Okay, you're getting some credit tonight for Brian's song and the Allman Brothers.
There you go. So, Coach, last question, since we have to ask, it is Turkey Day. What is best Thanksgiving Day side item?
Oh, golly. My mom used to make sweet potato pie every Thanksgiving dinner. And my oldest brother got the recipe, and he's carrying on the tradition in our family. She's been gone for many years now, but every Thanksgiving, and I'm glad I'm not at home for this one. But every Thanksgiving, whether I have it or not, I could still taste her sweet potato pie.
That's awesome that it's something good and something that means something to you as well. I think that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Coach. Both Bethany and myself will be watching closely Saturday, and we just wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for joining us.
Guys, I've enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. Thank you so much for having us on, and hopefully we'll keep busting the bracket, and maybe I'll see you next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Before we go, remember, D2 Nation, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and just about anywhere else you want to listen. Give us a follow and have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week on the D2 Nation.